Whenever you play the clarinet, say with a certain fingering combination, I'm sure that you all know, though you may not have thought about it, but a certain compression or a certain perception of resistance that you feel is set up within the tube of the clarinet. When you play a different note, a different combination of tone holes covered, then you get some subtle difference in that compression in the tube. Well, the compression just doesn't end in the bore of the clarinet, hitting down at the bell and reflecting back up. It also goes into the mouth. And so you can actually perceive these compression changes, subtle though they may be, in the mouth itself. For instance, when you're playing high E, the compression is different in the tube than, say, when you're playing the G on the staff, or when you're playing the B on the staff. And as far as the tongue position goes, essentially it's more than creating the note with the movement of the tip of the tongue. What the tip of the tongue is doing, the tip area of the tongue is doing, is simply responding to the compression change to make room for the note. You'll notice that, for instance, if you play high E, and this is really a matter of your experimentation. It's like riding a bicycle. You can have the general principles, but you really have to get on there and ride to really find out how specifically it's applied. But when you play the high E, notice very much where the tongue placement is, especially in relationship to the tip of the tongue, where the tongue placement is in proximity to the reed and mouthpiece, okay? And especially when the note is really optimum, good, well in tune, well centered, and quite resonant. And then, say, play the G below that on the staff and notice where the tongue position is. And another good experiment is to play that high E and notice where your tongue position is, and then play the G down below and try to maintain that tongue position, including the exact position you would use for high E with the tip of the tongue. And you'll notice that the G may not even respond until you let the tip of the tongue drop down and relax and respond to that compression. So your placement of the tip of the tongue to optimize response and resonance in the note, as well as tuning, is really not contingent on you doing some mechanical thing that's sort of artificial, but it's more a means of you being sensitive to the different compressions that the different combinations in the clarinet tube create in the mouth, and going with that, so to speak. It would be, for instance, like for me going over and just gently pushing on my hand so that my hand then finally willingly follows that little bit of push. But I have enough of my own energy that when that push goes away, that I'm able to go back to my original position or find some other position within that's more in line with the compression or the resistances that are being set up in the mouth. These are achieving these things really are a matter of just subtle practice and actually playing sustained tones and actually just reflecting on what you're experiencing, what you're feeling, where the placement is, where the air is, where the tongue is, and so on and so forth, how the airflow is working with the embouchure and everything else, then playing the next note and optimizing it and noticing any differences. And most of these differences, especially when you're going from the high register to the middle register, is going to be primarily in the movement of the very tip area of the tongue, the front area of the tongue, while the top area here remains fairly consistent in its relationship to the roof of the mouth, and so on and so forth. So these are the things that you need to experiment yourself with, and no one can pull out a measuring stick, a millimeter stick or whatever, and say you just move a little bit, 2 millimeters for this note and 3. It's not that way. The compressions are going to be sort of like gravity is, with a bicycle, and you work with the gravity to achieve success with what you want to do. You work with the compression to achieve successful slurring from the third register into the second register. If you try to force it with the embouchure or force it with the air, it usually doesn't work, and it's usually very frustrating. But sensitive, slow, attentive practice, reflecting on what your experience really is and their cause and effects, is going to lead you to the right conclusion and lead you to a lot of success in doing this. So with that, I'll leave you. Thanks for watching, and thanks very much for your suggestions. I appreciate them very much. I hope that the things I offer in response are helpful. If you want to send suggestions, well, all the information's on the back side. Okay? So, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.